Have you ever wondered how the animals and plant system works? Quite confusing, isn't it? But it might sound interesting than it seems. STEM students ng Lan National High School. Welcome to Animals and Plant System.
An organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform a certain function in an organism's body. Most animals and plants have organs, which are self-contained group of tissues such as parts that work together to perform one function. By understanding how the system interacts, you can determine the proper care for each individual. With a foundation of anatomy and physiology, you will have the building blocks to make the proper decision and provide accurate and quality care.
The musculoskeletal system is a complex network of tissues, organs, and structures that work together to provide support, movement, and protection to the body. It consists of two main components, the muscular system and the skeletal system. Let's break down the parts of the system.
Skeletal system. These are the rigid, hard organs that form the framework of the body. They provide support, protection, and shape to the body. There are over 200 bones in the human body, ranging from small bones like those in the hands and feet to the large bones like the femur, thigh bone, and the humerus, upper arm bone. Joints. Joints are the point where two or more bones come together. They allow for movement and flexibility. Different types of joint include hinge joints, example of these is elbow joint. Bell and socket joint, example of this is shoulder joint. And pivot joints, example of this is neck joint.
Go!
Cartilage. Cartilage is smooth, rubbery, connective tissue that covers the end of bones at joints. It helps reduce friction, absorb shock, and facilitates smooth movement between bones. Ligaments. Ligaments are tough, fibrous tissue that connect bones to other bones. They provide stability to joints and prevent excessive movement or dislocation. Tendons are dense, fibrous tissues that connect muscle to bones. They transmit the force generated by the muscles to the bones, enabling movement.
Muscular system.
Muscles. Muscles are the contractile tissues responsible for movement. There are three main types of muscles: skeletal muscles, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscles. Skeletal muscles.
These are voluntary muscles attached to the bones by tendons. They allow us to consciously control body movements such as walking, running, and lifting weights.
Go! Smooth muscles.
Also known as involuntary muscles, smooth muscles are found in the walls of internal organs, blood vessels, and other structures. They work automatically to control movements of these organs, such as the contraction of the skin during digestion. Cardiac muscles. These muscles are found only in the heart. They contract involuntarily to pump blood throughout the body.
Muscle fibers.
Muscle fibers are the individual cells that make up muscles. They contain specialized protein that allow for muscle contraction. 1. Fascia. Fascia is a connective tissue that surrounds and separates muscles, providing structural support and allowing for smooth movements between different muscle groups.
The musculoskeletal system works in coordination with the nervous system to control movement and perform various tasks. It enables us to walk, run, jump, lift objects, and carry out everyday activities. Additionally, it protects vital organs, supports the body's weight, and helps maintain posture and balance. Plants have a structural system called the musculoskeletal system, which provides support, stability, and movement. While it differs from the musculoskeletal system of the animals, it serves as a similar purpose in allowing plants to maintain their shape, withstand environmental force, and facilitate growth and movement. Here's an overview of the process of the musculoskeletal system in plants.
Cell wall. Plant cells are surrounded by a rigid cell wall composed mainly of cellulose.
The cell wall provides structural support and determines the shape of rigidity of plant cells. Soil turgor pressure. Plant cells have a large central vacuole filled with water and other substances. This creates turgor pressure, exerting an outward force to the cell wall and maintaining cell shape and rigidity. Cellulose microfibrils. Cellulose microfibrils are long fibrous structures arranged in a network within the cell wall. They provide tensile strength to cell wall, allowing it to resist stretching and maintaining structural integrity. Plant tissues. Parenchyma cells are the most common types of cells and are involved in various functions, including storage, photosynthesis, and secretion. Collichyma cells provide flexible support to plants' organs, particularly in growing tissues. They have thickened cell walls and can elongate with the plant's growth. Sclerenchyma cells are highly specialized for support and protection. They have thick, lignified secondary cell walls and provide structural support to mature plant cells. Xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem are vascular tissues responsible for the transport of water, nutrients, and sugars within the plant. Xylem conducts water and minerals from the root to the leaf, while phloem transport sugar and other organic molecules throughout the plant.
Growth and movement. Apical meristems are regions of actively dividing cells located at the tips of roots and shoots. They contribute to the elongation and growth of plants' organs. Lateral meristems such as the vascular cambium and curved cambium are responsible for the growth in girth or diameter of plants' organs, resulting in secondary growth. Phototropism and gravitropism. Plants can exhibit growth movements in response to environmental stimuli. Phototropism refers to the growth or movement of plants' organs towards or away from light, while gravitropism is the growth or movement of plants' organs in response to gravity. Response to mechanical stress. Stigmotropism is the response of plants to mechanical stimuli such as touch or wind. It can lead to changes in plants' growth and movement, allowing plants to adapt their environment and avoid physical damage.
The digestive system is a complex system responsible for the breakdown and absorption of nutrients from the food we eat. It involves a series of organs and processes working together to convert food into usable energy and essential molecules. Here's an overview of the process of the digestive system. Throughout the entire digestive process, the coordination of muscular contraction, known as peristalsis, helps propel foods and waste materials along the digestive tract. The digestive system works in harmony with other systems, such as the circulatory system and endocrine system, to ensure proper digestion, absorption, and distribution of nutrients throughout the body. Plants have a digestive system that allows them to obtain and process nutrients necessary for their growth and survival. However, the process is significantly different from the digestive system of animals. Plants do not have specialized organs like a stomach or intestine, but instead utilize various structures and processes to perform digestions. Here's an overview of the process of the digestive system in plants.
Absorption of water and nutrients. Roots. Plants absorb water and nutrients from the soil through their roots. Root hairs, tiny extensions of the root surface, increase the surface area for absorption. Mycorrhizal associations. Some plants form mutualistic relationships with beneficial fungi called mycorrhizae. These fungi enhance nutrients absorption by increasing the surface area of the roots and aiding in the breakdown of organic matter. Photosynthesis and carbohydrate production. Leaves. Through the process of photosynthesis, plants convert sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water into glucose, carbohydrate, and oxygen. Chloroplasts in leaf cells contain chlorophyll, which captures sunlight energy for this process. Translocation. Once synthesized, carbohydrates move through the plant's vascular system. specifically the phloem tissue to be distributed to various plants' parts for growth, storage, and energy. Cell wall digestion, cellulose breakdown. The cell wall of plants contains cellulose, a complex carbohydrate that provides structural support. Certain microbes such as a bacteria and fungi produces enzymes called cellulase that can break down cellulose into simpler sugar that the plants can utilize. Storage and conversion. Starch and storage organs. Plants store excess carbohydrates as starch in various storage organs like tubers, potatoes, bulbs, and seeds. Starch can be broken down into glucose when needed for energy or growth. Seed germination. During seed germination, stored nutrients in form of starch are converted into simpler forms like sugar, which the developing seedling can use for growth until it can produce its own nutrients through photosynthesis. Mutualistic relationships. Mutualistic microbes. Some plants form symbiotic relationship with microorganisms such as bacteria or fungi in their root systems. These microbes helps break down complex organic matter in the soil, releasing nutrients that the plant can absorb.
Overall, the digestive system in plants involve the absorption of water and nutrients from the soil, photosynthesis to produce carbohydrates, the breakdown of cell walls and complex carbohydrate, storage of excess nutrients, and mutualistic relationships with beneficial microbes. This process allows plants to obtain and utilize the necessary resources for growth, development, and reproduction. The endocrine system is a complex network of glands and organs that secretes hormone into the bloodstream. These hormones act as chemical messengers and play a vital role in regulating various processes and functions in the body. Here is an overview of the process of the endocrine system.
Hormone production. The endocrine system includes several glands scattered throughout the body. Each gland is responsible for producing specific hormones. Major glands of the endocrine system include number 1. Hypothalamus. Located in the brain, it produces and releases various hormones that control the secretion of hormones from the pituitary gland. Number 2. Pituitary gland. Often referred to as the master gland, it is located at the base of the brain. The pituitary gland secretes hormones that regulate the activity of other endocrine glands. Number 3. Thyroid gland. Located in the neck, it produces hormones that regulate metabolism and energy balance. Number 4. Adrenal glands. Situated on top of each kidney, they produce hormones such as cortisol, which regulates stress response, and adrenaline, which stimulates the fight or flight response. Number 5. Pancreas. It secretes insulins and glucagons, which regulates blood sugar levels. Number 6. Gonads. Testes in males and ovaries in females. They produce hormones involved in reproductive functions such as testosterone and estrogen. Number 7. Pineal gland. Located in the brain, it secretes melatonin, which regulates sleep-wake cycles. Hormone release. Hormones are released into the bloodstream by endocrine glands is in response to various signals. The release of hormones can be stimulated by factors such as changes in blood concentration, feedback loops, or signals from the nervous system. Hormone transport. Once released into the bloodstream, hormones travel throughout the body, reaching target cells or organs. Hormones interact with specific receptors on the surface or within the target cells, initiating various cellular responses.
Reaction.
Target cell response. Hormones bind to specific receptors on the target cells, triggering a cascade of cellular responses. These responses can include changes in gene expression, activation of enzymes, regulation of metabolism, or alterations in cell function. Feedback mechanisms. The endocrine system utilizes feedback mechanisms to maintain hormone balance and regulate bodily functions. Negative feedback loops are the most common. In a negative feedback loop, when hormone levels reach a certain threshold, they send signals to the glands to decrease hormone production, maintaining homeostasis. Hormone clearance. Hormones are eventually cleared from the bloodstream through various mechanisms. They may be broken down by enzyme in the liver or other tissues, excreted through the kidneys, or metabolized and eliminated from the body.
The endocrine system system is responsible for regulating a wide range of functions including metabolism, growth and development, reproduction, stress response, and sleep patterns, and many more. The precise regulation of hormone secretion and action is essential for maintaining overall health and balance in the body. Plants do not possess a centralized endocrine system like animals do. Instead, they have a decentralized system of hormone production and response, where hormone act as a chemical messenger to coordinate various physiological processes. Plants' hormones, also known as phytohormones, play crucial roles in growth, development, and responses to environmental stimuli. Here is an overview of the process of the endocrine system in plants.
Hormone production. Various tissues in plants produces hormones that regulate growth and development. Common plants hormones include auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins, abscisic acid, ethylene, and brassinosteroids. Hormones are typically synthesized in specific regions such as the shoot tips, root tips, or developing seeds. Hormone signaling and transport. Plant hormones can act locally or be transported to target tissues throughout the plant. Hormones can move through the plants via cell-to-cell transport or through the vascular system called xylem and phloem. Hormone receptors and signal transduction. Hormone bind specific receptors present on the surface or within cells. Once bound, hormone receptor complexes trigger signal transduction pathways that relay the hormone signal to the target cell. Signal transduction may involve changes in gene expression, protein activity, ion concentrations, or other cellular processes. Regulation of growth and development. Auxins regulate cell elongation, apical dominance, and tropic responses such as phototropism and gravitropism. They are involved in root and shoot growth and differentiation. Cytokinins promote cell division and control bud growth, leaf senescence, and the development of chloroplast. Gibberellins. Gibberellins stimulate stem elongation, seed germination, and flowering. Abscisic acid regulates seeds dormancy, stomatal closure, and drought tolerance. Ethylene influence fruit ripening, senescence, and responses to stress. Brassinosteroids. Brassinosteroids are involved in cell elongation, vascular development, and stress response. Response to environment stimuli. Hormones play a crucial role in plant responses to environmental cues such as light, temperature, gravity, and water availability. For example, auxins mediate phototropism and gravitropism, but gibberellins promote stem elongation and response to light, and abscisic acids regulate stomatal closure during water stress.
The endocrine system in plants relies on the production, transport, and signaling of hormones to coordinate growth, development, and responses to the environment. Unlike animals with a centralized system, plants' hormones act in a decentralized manner, allowing for local and systematic regulation of various physiological processes. These hormones play a vital role in shaping plant structure, facilitating reproduction, responding to environmental cues, and ensuring plant survival and adaptation.
Maintaining fluid balance and regulating the composition of body fluids. It involves several organs and processes working together to eliminate waste materials from the body. Here is an overview of the process of the excretory system.
Filtration. The process begins in the kidneys, which are the primary organ of the excretory system. The kidneys receive blood through the renal arteries. Inside each kidney, there are millions of tiny filtering units called nephrons. Each nephron consists of a glomerulus and a tubule. As the filtrate flows through the tubule, reabsorption takes place. The walls of the tubule selectively reabsorb essential substances such as water, glucose, ions, and amino acid back into the bloodstream. This reabsorption process helps maintain the body fluids balance and prevent the loss of valuable substance. After reabsorption, the remaining filtrate in the tubules contain waste product excess ions, drugs, and other substances that need to be eliminated. The tubules actively secrete these waste products from the bloodstream into the filtrate. This secretion process helps to further concentrate and eliminate waste materials from the body. After reabsorption, the remaining filtrate in the tubules contain waste products, excess ions, drugs, and other substances that needed to be eliminated. The tubules actively secrete this waste product from the bloodstream into the filtrate. This secretion process helps to further concentrate and eliminate waste materials from the body. The filtrate, now called drainage, continues to flow through the tubules where it undergoes further concentration. As the tubule passes through the renal medulla, water is reabsorbed, concentrating the urine. The concentrated urine then enters the renal pelvis, a funnel-like structure that collects the urine from the tubule. From the renal pelvis, urine processed through the uterus.
The ureters are long muscular tubes that transfer urine from the penis to the urinary bladder. Peristaltic contraction of the smooth muscles in the ureters propel the urine towards the bladder. The urinary bladder is a muscular sac that serves as a temporary storage reservoir for urine. It expands as it fills with urine and contracts during urination to expel the urine from the body. The urethra is a tube that carries urine from the urinary bladder to the outside of the body. In males, it also serves as a passage space for semen during ejaculation. Urination, also known as micturition, urination is the process of eliminating urine from the body. It is controlled reflex action coordinated by the nervous system. When the urinary bladder is full, nerve signals are sent to the brain, triggering the urge to urinate. The muscle of the bladder contracts and the sphincter muscle relaxes, allowing urine to be expelled through the urethra.
The excretory system helps maintain the balance of fluids and electrolytes, regulate blood pressure, and remove waste products generated by the body's metabolic processes. It plays a crucial role in maintaining homeostasis and overall bodily function. Plants do not possess a dedicated excretory system like animals do. Instead, they have specialized structures and processes that enable them to excrete waste products and regulate water balance. Here's an overview of the processes involved in the excretory function of the plants.
Stomata and transpiration. Stomata are small openings primarily found on the leaves, stem, and other aerial parts of plants. Through stomata, plants release water vapor and oxygen as byproducts of photosynthesis in a process called transpiration. Transpiration helps regulate water balance and temperature in plants and also assists in the removal of certain waste products. Lenticels are small corky pores found on the surface of woody stems and roots. They allow for gas exchange between the internal tissues and external environment, facilitating the release of gases, including some waste products such as carbon dioxide and ethylene. Some waste products generated during metabolic process are stored within specialized plant structures. For example, plants may store waste substances in vacuoles, which are membrane-bound organelles found within plant cells. These vacuoles can act as temporary storage sites for metabolic waste until it can be transported or expelled. During census, aging, and abscission, leaf or fruit drops, plant cells break down and reabsorb valuable nutrients from the dying tissues. This process allows the plants to salvage nutrients from older or damaged parts and redistribute them to actively growing regions. Plants release various compounds known as root exudates from the root into the soil. Root exudates can include organic acid, enzyme, and other substances that facilitate nutrient uptake, influence microbial activity, and help with the detoxification of certain soil pollutants.
It is important to note that while plants do not have a dedicated excretory system, their processes for waste removal and water regulation are integrated into various physiological and growth-related activities. This mechanism enables plants to maintain homeostasis, eliminate waste product, and adapt to their environment.
The reproductive system, also known as genital, is responsible for the production of gametes, sperm and eggs, and the facilitation of sexual reproduction. It involves several organs and processes working together to ensure the continuation of the species. Here's an overview of the process of reproductive system.
So, number 1, gametes reproduction. Under the gametes reproduction, female reproductive system and male reproductive system. In males, the testes are the primary reproductive organs. They produce sperm through a process called spermatogenesis. Sperm cells develop within the seminiferous tubules of the testes and mature in the epididymis. In females, the ovaries are the primary reproductive organs. They produce eggs through a process called oogenesis. Ovaries contain thousands of follicles, each containing an immature egg. During each menstrual cycle, one egg is typically released from an ovary in a process called ovulation.
Number 2 is fertilization. Sexual intercourse involves the insertion of erect penis into the vagina. It allows for the disposition of sperm into the female reproductive tract, facilitating the chance of fertilization. Fertilization occurs when a sperm cell successfully penetrates and fuses with an egg cell, typically in the fallopian tube. This fusion forms a zygote, which contains the combined genetic materials from both parents.
Number 3, pregnancy. After fertilization, the zygote undergoes cell division as it travels down the fallopian tube and into the uterus. It then implants itself into the thickening lining of the uterus called the endometrium. In the embryo and fetal development, the implanted zygote develops into an embryo and later a fetus as it continues to grow and develop within the uterus. Various stages of development occur, including the formation of different organs and systems. During pregnancy, the placenta develops from the coryn, a membrane surrounding the embryo or fetus. The placenta acts as the interface between the mother and the developing fetus, facilitating nutrients and gas exchange and hormone production.
Number 4 is birth. Labor is the process by which the uterus contracts to expel the fetus from the mother's body. It involves 3 stages: dilation, expulsion, and placental delivery. During the expulsion stage, the baby moves through the birth canal and is born through the vagina. Assistance may be provided by medical professionals such as midwives or obstetricians. After birth, the uterus continues to contract, expelling the placenta and initiating postpartum healing and recovery. Lactation, the production of breast milk, is also initiated during the time. The reproductive system is vital for perpetuation of the species. It involves the coordination of hormones, the development of fertilization, pregnancy, and childbirth. It is important to note that while the process described here is the general overview, individual variations and complexities may exist.
The reproductive system of plants is responsible for the production of new individuals and the continuation of their species. Plants have a diverse range of reproductive strategies, including both sexual and asexual modes of reproduction. Here's an overview of the process involved in the reproduction system of plants.
Number 1. Sexual reproduction. Flower formation. Many plants produce flowers, which are specialized reproductive structures. Flowers typically consist of sepals, petals, stamens for male reproductive organs, and pistil for female reproductive organs. Pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from the male reproductive organs anthers to the female reproductive organs stigma of flowers. It can occur through various means such as wind, water, or animals pollinators like insects, birds, or mammals. Fertilization. Once pollen reaches the stigma, it germinates and produces a pollen tube that grows down the style to reach the ovary. Fertilization occurs when a sperm cell from the pollen tube unite with the egg cell in the ovule, resulting in the formation of zygote. Seed development. The fertilized ovule develops in the seed, which contains the embryo and a food source, endosperm or cotyledons. The ovary surrounding the seed develop into fruit that aids in seeds dispersal.
Number 2. Asexual reproduction. Vegetative propagation. Many plants have the ability to reproduce asexually through various methods, such as runners, rhizomes, bulbs, tubers, and sockets. These structures allow new plants to arise from the parent plant without the involvement of seeds or fertilization. Cloning. Some plants can produce identical genetic copies of themselves through processes like cutting, grafting, or tissue culture. These methods involve taking a piece of the parent plant and including it to develop into an individual.
Number 3. Alternations of generations. Many plants exhibit a life cycle called alternations of generations, which involves two distinct phases, which is the gametophytes or haploids and sporophytes or the first generation. The gametophytes generations produces gametes or sperm and eggs through mitosis. These gametes fuse during fertilization to form the sporophytes generations, which develops from the zygotes and produces spores through meiosis. The spores are released and grows into new gametophytes, completing the life cycle.
Reproduction in plants is diverse and complex process with variations depending on the species and environmental conditions. By employing both sexual and asexual reproductive strategies, plants can adapt and ensure the survival and propagation of their species.
Specialized cells located in central organs such as the eyes, ears, skin, and nose detect stimuli from the external environment or internal condition of the body. They convert these stimuli into electrical signals known as nerve impulses or action potentials. The sensory impulses are transmitted to the CNS, which includes the brain and the spinal cord. In the CNS, the information is processed, analyzed, and interpreted to generate appropriate responses. Neurons are the fundamental units of the nervous system. They receive, process, and transmit information through electrical and chemical signals. Motor neurons are specialized neurons located within the CNS. They receive sensory input and transmit signals between sensory neurons and motor neurons, facilitating integration or coordination of responses.
Motor neurons. Motor neurons transmit signals from the CNS to the muscles and glands, initiating motor responses. Motor neurons communicate with muscle through specialized connections called neuromuscular junctions. Effectors.
Effectors are organs, glands, or muscles that respond to the signals from motor neurons. They carry out the appropriate actions based on the integration of sensory information in the CNS.
Nerve impulses. Nerve impulses are electrochemical signals generated by neurons. They travel along the axons of neurons as electrical impulses, facilitated by changes in the flow of ions across the neural membrane. Synapses. Synapses are junctions between neurons, allowing communication and transmission of nerve impulses. When a nerve impulse reaches the ends of an axon or presynaptic terminal, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters which across the synapse and bind to a receptor on the next neuron or postsynaptic terminal. Autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, or ANS, is a division of peripheral nervous system that regulates involuntary function of the body, such as heart rate, digestion, breathing, and glandular activity. It consists of subdivisions, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which often have opposite effects on target organs.
Sensory perception. Plants have specialized cells called photoreceptors which can detect light and allow them to respond to change in light intensity, direction, and quality. Photoreceptors include protein called phototropins, cryptochromes, and phytochromes. Other sensory perception mechanisms in plants involve mechanoreceptors that respond to touch or wind, the chemoreceptors that respond to chemical cues in the environment. Signal transmission. Once a sensory perception is triggered, plants transmit signals to different parts of their body. Plant cells communicate through chemical signaling utilizing various molecules such as hormones, ions, and reactive oxygen species. These signals are transmitted locally or systematically through cell-to-cell communication or by the plant's vascular system, xylem, and phloem. Response and movement. Upon receiving a signal, plants can exhibit growth, movements, or adjust their physiological process to respond to environmental stimuli.
Tropism are growth movements in response to stimuli such as light, phototropism, gravity, gravitropism, and touch, stigmotropism. Plants can elongate or bend their stem or roots in a particular direction in response to these stimuli. Nastic movements are reversible, non-directional movements that plants exhibit in response to stimuli such as light, touch, temperature, or humidity. Example including the opening and closing of flowers or the folding of leaves. Signal integration and memory. Plants can integrate multiple signals and response accordingly. They can prioritize certain responses over based on the intensity or duration of the stimulus. Plants also have the ability to remember past experience and adjust their responses accordingly. This memory-like capability helps them optimize their growth and survival in changing environments.
The respiratory process is the physiological process by which oxygen is taken in from the environment and carbon dioxide is expelled from the body. It involves several organs and structures working together to facilitate the exchange of the gases. Here's an overview of the process.
Inhalation. The process begins with the inhalation or inspiration where the diaphragm and intercostal muscles contract. This action expands the chest cavity, causing the lungs to expand. As the lungs expand, air is drawn in the throat, the nose or mouth, down the trachea, and into the bronchial tubes.
Thermal respiration.
Oxygen from the inhaled air moves from the alveoli, tiny air sacs in the lungs, into the bloodstream through the process of diffusion. At the same time, carbon dioxide from the bloodstream diffuses into the alveoli to be eliminated during exhalation. Internal respiration.
In the tissue of the body, oxygen is delivered to cells via the bloodstream. Oxygen diffuses from the capillaries surrounding the cells into the cells, where it is used for cellular respiration. Carbon dioxide, a waste product of cellular respiration, diffuses from the cells into the bloodstream to be transported back to the lungs for elimination.
Hemoglobin. Oxygen molecules bind to hemoglobin at being found in red blood cells. Hemoglobin acts as a carrier, allowing oxygen to transport them throughout the body via the bloodstream. Oxygen dissociation. In the tissues where oxygen levels are lower due to cellular respiration, oxygen dissociates from hemoglobin and diffuses into the cells to support cellular metabolism. Bicarbonate ions. Carbon dioxide generated by cellular metabolism converts water into the red blood cell, forming carbonic acid. Carbonic acid then dissociates into bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. Bicarbonate ions are transported into the plasma to the lungs, where they are converted back into carbon dioxide for elimination. Carbon dioxide is carried into the bloodstream in the form of bicarbonate ions and dissolved carbon dioxide. During inhalation, carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood into the alveoli and is expelled from the body.
The respiratory system plays a crucial role in providing oxygen to the body's cells and removing carbon dioxide, a waste, a product of cellular metabolism. This exchange of gases occurs through the process of breathing, gas diffusion in the lungs, oxygen transport in the bloodstream, and carbon dioxide elimination. It ensures the delivery of oxygen necessary for cellular function and the removal of metabolic waste, maintaining the homeostasis in the body. Plants do not have a specialized respiratory system like animals do. Instead, they have various structures and processes that facilitate gas exchange, allowing them to obtain oxygen and release carbon dioxide. The primary site of gas exchange in plants is the leaf, specifically through the tiny openings called the stomata. Here's an overview of the process of gas exchange in plants.
Stomatal openings. Stomata are small openings primarily found on the surface of leaves, stem, and sometimes other plant organs. Each stomata consists of two specialized guard cells that control the opening and closing of the pore. When the guard cells take up water and become turgid, they swell and cause the stomatal pore to open, allowing for gas change. Gas diffusion. Once the stomata are open, gases can diffuse in and out of the plant. Oxygen enters the plant through the stomata and diffuses into the internal tissues, including the mesophyll cells within the leaf. Carbon dioxide, produced a byproduct of respiration, diffuses out of plant through the stomata. Leaf internal pathway. With the leaf, the gases move through intercellular spaces and pass between the loosely arranged cells of spongy mesophyll and palisade mesophyll layers. These layers of cells contain chloroplasts, where photosynthesis takes place and respiration occurs. Cellular respiration. Inside the cells, oxygen is utilized in the process of cellular respiration, where organic compounds are broken down to produce energy in the form of ATP for the plant's metabolic activities. During cellular respiration, carbon dioxide is generated as a byproduct and released into the intercellular space. Gas exchange balance. The opening and closing of stomata are regulated by various factors including light, intensity, temperature, humidity, and carbon dioxide levels. These plants strive to strike a balance between obtaining sufficient carbon dioxide for photosynthesis while minimizing water loss through transpiration.
It is important to note that while plants undergo respiration to produce energy, they also perform the photosynthesis, where the use of sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to produce glucose and release oxygen as a byproduct. The process of respiration and photosynthesis in plants are interconnected, with respiration providing the energy needed for growth and other metabolic processes, and photosynthesis providing the raw materials and oxygen necessary for respiration. In summary, the respiratory system of plants involves the exchange of gases, oxygen, and carbon dioxide through the stomata located primarily on the leaves. Oxygen is taken up while carbon dioxide is released as a result of cellular respiration. This gas exchange process is essential for the plant's energy production and overall metabolic activities.
The circulatory system, also known as the cardiovascular system, is responsible for the transportation of oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and waste products throughout the body. It involves the heart, blood vessels, and blood working together to facilitate the circulation of these substances. Here's an overview of the process of the circulation system.
Number 1. The heart. The heart is a muscular organ located in the chest and acts as a pump that propels blood throughout the body. It consists of 4 chambers: the right atria and the left atria, and the left ventricle and the right ventricle. The atria receive blood returning to the heart, while the ventricle pump blood out of the heart. The heart contracts and relaxes in a coordinated manner, creating a rhythmic cycle known as the cardiac cycle. Blood vessels. Arteries are blood vessels that carry oxygenated blood away from the heart to the body tissues. They have thick, elastic walls that help maintain blood pressure and distribute blood to various organs and tissues. Capillaries. Capillaries are tiny, thin-walled vessels that connect arteries and veins. They facilitate the exchange of oxygen, nutrients, and waste product between the bloodstream and the surrounding cells. Veins are blood vessels that carry the oxygenated blood from the body tissues back to the heart. They have thinner walls compared to arteries and contain valves that prevent backflow of the blood. The blood. Blood is connective tissues consisting of plasma, red blood cells, and white blood cells and also the platelets. Red blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen from the lungs to the body tissues and carry carbon dioxide, a waste product, back to the lungs from elimination. White blood cells. White blood cells are involved in the immune response, protecting the body against infections and foreign substances. Platelets. Platelets play a crucial role in blood clotting, preventing excessive bleeding when a blood vessel is damaged. Circulation. Systemic circulation. Systemic circulation refers to the circulation of oxygenated blood from the left side of the heart to the body tissues and the return of deoxygenated blood to the right side of the heart. It delivers oxygen and nutrients to organs and tissues while removing waste products. Pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation involves the circulation of deoxygenated blood from the right side of the heart to the lungs and the return of oxygenated blood to the left side of the heart. It facilitates the exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide in the lungs. Cardiac cycle. Systole. Systole is the contraction phase of the cardiac cycle. When the heart pumps blood, the ventricles contract, forcing blood into the arteries. Diastole. Diastole is the relaxation phase of the cardiac cycle when the heart fills with blood. The arteria contract, filling the ventricles with blood.
Circulatory system ensures the efficient delivery of oxygen, nutrients, and other essential substances to the body's tissues and the removal of waste products. It helps maintain homeostasis, supports immune function, and regulates body temperature. The coordinated action of the heart, blood vessels, and blood allows for the continuous circulation of blood throughout the body. The circulatory system in plants is also known as the vascular system. It is responsible for the transportation of water, nutrients, hormones, and other essential substances throughout the plant's body. It consists of two main components, the xylem and phloem.
Xylem. Xylem is a complex tissue that transport water and minerals from the roots to the rest of the plant. Water is absorbed by the roots and transported through the xylem vessels or tracheids, which are long tubular cells. The movement of water in xylem occurs primarily through a process called transpiration, which is the evaporation of water from the leaves. Transpiration creates a negative pressure or tension that pulls water upward through the xylem, adhering to the walls of the xylem cells through capillary action. The cohesion and adhesion properties of water molecules enable it to move as a continuous column up the xylem against gravity. Number 2, phloem. Phloem is another complex tissue responsible for the transport of organic nutrients, such as sugars and amino acids, from the leaves to the other plants of the plants. The movement of nutrients in the phloem occurs through a process called translocation. Translocation involves the loading of sugars from the photosynthetic cells in the leaves into specialized cells called the sieve tube elements. The movement of sugar in the phloem is facilitated by pressure flow, where sugars are pushed along the phloem by the osmotic pressure gradient created by the active loading and unloading of sugars at source and sieve regions. The movement of sugars can occur bidirectionally, allowing plants to allocate resources where they are needed. Vascular bundles. Vascular bundles are the structural units of the plant's circulatory system and are found throughout the plant body. In stems, vascular bundles are organized as a cylindrical pattern with xylem located toward the center and phloem toward the outside. In leaves, vascular bundles form a network of veins supplying nutrients and water to the leaf cells. In roots, vascular tissues extends from the stem into the root and branches out to provide water and nutrients to the root cells.
It's important to note that circulatory system in plants differs from that animals. In plants, the movement of substance is mainly driven by physical processes such as transpiration, capillary action, and pressure flow, rather than a central pump like the heart in animals. The vascular system in plants ensures the efficient transport of water, nutrients, and other essential substances to support growth, metabolism, and overall plant function. The immune system is a complex network of cells, tissues, and organs that work together to defend the body against harmful pathogens, such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. It plays a crucial role in maintaining body's health and protecting it from infection. Here's an overview of the process of the immune system.
Antigens are molecules present on the surface of pathogens that can trigger an immune response. When the immune system encounters an antigen, it recognizes it as foreign or natural. Immune cells, specialized cells to the immune system including white blood cells or leukocytes, detect and recognize antigens. There are different types of immune cells including phagocytes, such as neutrophils and macrophages, and lymphocytes such as T cells and B cells. Innate immune response. The innate immune response is the first line of defense and provides immediate, non-specific defense mechanism against pathogens. It includes physical barriers like the skin and mucous membrane, phagocytes, natural killer cells, and the inflammatory responses. Adaptive immune response. The adaptive immune response is a specific defense mechanism that develops over time. It involves the activation of lymphocytes, particularly T cells and B cells. The adaptive immune response recognizes specific antigens and creates a memory of the encounter to mount a faster and more effective response upon subsequent exposure to the same pathogen.
Phagocytosis. Phagocytes such as neutrophils and macrophages engulf and destroy pathogens through a process called phagocytosis. Cell-mediated immunity. T cells are responsible for cell-mediated immunity. They recognize infected cells and directly destroy them or release substances that help eliminate the pathogen. Humoral immunity. B cells are involved in humoral immunity. They produce antibodies that bind to antigens on the surface of pathogens, marking them for destruction by other components of the immune system or neutralizing their effect. Memory cells. Both T cells and B cells can develop into memory cells. These cells remember specific antigens, enabling a faster and more efficient response upon re-exposure to the same pathogen in the future. Secondary response. If the immune system encounters a previously encountered pathogen, the memory cells initiate a rapid and robust immune response. This secondary response leads to a quicker clearance of the pathogen, often preventing the development of illness.
The immune system is a complex defense system that constantly monitors the body of potential threats and mounts appropriate responses to protect against infection. It involves a combination of innate and adaptive immune responses, cellular and humoral mechanisms, and the generation of immune memory. By effectively identifying and eliminating pathogens, the immune system helps maintaining the body's health and plays a vital role in overall well-being. Plants have an intricate immune system that helps them defend against pathogens such as bacteria, fungi, viruses, and parasites, as well as cope with environmental stresses. While plants lack an adaptive immune system like animals, they possess various defense mechanisms that are primarily based on their innate immunity. Here's an overview of the process of the immune system in plants.
Recognition of pathogens. Plants possess pattern recognition receptors or PRRS on their cell surfaces that can recognize specific molecular patterns associated with pathogen, known as pathogen-associated molecular patterns or PAMPs. When a plant cell detects PAMPs, it triggers a signaling cascade known as a PAMP-triggered immunity or PTI. This initiates a defense response to prevent pathogen invasion. Signal transduction and defense activation. Upon pathogen recognition, plant cells activate various defense signaling pathways leading to the production of defense-related molecules and activation of defense genes. These signaling pathways involve the generation of reactive oxygen species or ROS, activation of protein kinesis, and synthesis of defense hormone such as the salicylic acid SA, jasmonic acid GA, and ethylene. Production of defense molecules. Plants produces a wide array of defense molecules that help combat pathogens. Phytoalexins. These are antimicrobial compounds synthesized in a response to pathogen attack. They inhibit the growth of pathogens and can be specific to a particular pathogen types. pathogenesis related or PR. These proteins have antimicrobial properties and play a role in defense against pathogens. They can also be involved in signaling and regulating other defense-related processes. Defense enzyme. Plants produces enzymes such as chitinases and glucanase, which break down the components of fungal cell walls, as well as proteases that degrade pathogen proteins. Systemic acquired resistance or SAR. When a plant is infected by a pathogen, it can induce a systemic response throughout the entire plant, even in unaffected parts. This systemic acquired resistance or SAR involves the production and transmission of signaling molecules, such as SA, from the infected site to other plants. SAR leads to the enhanced state of defense readiness in unaffected tissues, making the entire plant more resistant to subsequent pathogen attacks. Induced systemic resistance or ISR. In addition to SAR, plants can also develop induced systemic resistance or ISR when they interact with beneficial microbes in the rhizosphere. Beneficial microbes such as certain strains of bacteria and fungi can stimulate plants' defense responses and enhance the ability to resist pathogens attack. Physical barriers. Plants have physical barriers that provide the first line of defense against pathogens. Cuticle. The waxy cuticle covering the plant's surface acts as a barrier to prevent pathogen entry. Cell walls. The rigid cell walls of plant cells provide structural supports and help prevent pathogen penetration. Trichomes. There are specialized hairs of or outgrowths on the surface of leaves and stems that can physically impede pathogen movement or trap insects.
The immune system in plants is highly dynamic and can be influenced by various factors including the type of pathogens, environmental condition, and the plant's genetic makeup. By combining different defense mechanisms, plants are able to recognize and respond to the pathogen attack, limit their spread, and minimize the damage caused by infection.
The cranial nerves are a set of 12 pairs of nerves that emerge directly from the brain, primarily from the brainstem. They are responsible for conducting sensory, motor, and autonomic signals to and from various structures in the head, neck, and visceral organs. Each cranial nerve is designated by a Roman numeral and a name. Here's an overview of the process of the cranial nerves. Number 1. Olfactory nerve. The olfactory nerve is responsible for the sense of smell. Number 2. Optic nerve. The optic nerve is responsible for vision. Number 3. Oculomotor nerve. The oculomotor nerve controls most of the eye movements and regulates the size of the pupil. Number 4. Trochlear nerve. The trochlear nerve also controls eye movements. 5. Trigeminal nerve. The trigeminal nerve is responsible for sensory information from the face and motor control of the jaw muscle. Number 6. Abducens nerve. The abducens nerve controls the movement of the lateral rectus muscle, which is responsible for the abduction, outward movement of the eye. Number 7. Facial nerve. The facial nerve controls the muscle of the facial expressions, taste, sensation, and the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, and their production of the saliva and tears. Number 8. The vestibulocochlear nerve. The vestibulocochlear nerve, also known as the auditory nerve, is responsible for hearing and balance. Number 8. The vestibular cochlear nerve. The vestibulocochlear nerve, also known as the auditory nerve, is responsible for hearing and balance. Number 9. The glossopharyngeal nerve. The glossopharyngeal nerve controls taste sensation in the posterior one-third of the tongue and carries sensory information from the throat, tonsil, and the carotid arteries. Number 10. The vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve and has widespread function throughout the body. Number 11. Spinal accessory nerve. The spinal accessory nerve controls the muscles involved in head and neck movements. Number 12 and the last is the hypoglossal nerve. The hypoglossal nerve enables tongue's movement.
So you gotta find